The question was regarding Medicaid expansion. Let me just correct. Between now and the court hearing, Secretary Voss and her team and myself are exploring all alternatives. We're not just stopping, waiting for the Supreme Court case, but we recognize the Supreme Court case could have major ramifications on everything related to health care, including Medicaid. But in between now and the Supreme Court case, which is of great concern to me because no one in Washington, from the President to the Congress, is preparing any alternative scenarios regarding their case, and I said that directly to the President in the White House last week. I've directed my team to do two things. One is, and I've told the legislators that I'm working on this, is look at all the alternatives that's happening with expanding insurance for the uninsured in other states, including Indiana and Idaho and other states, Pennsylvania recently, and also looking at what happened in Tennessee. We're looking at their plan, looking at what waivers are given, what waivers we think we would need to have a North Carolina plan and not a Washington plan, and then also look at the 10% issue, because if we even did Medicaid expansion, is there a institution or a pot of money that could cover the extra 10%? So we're looking at those as I evaluate whether or not to recommend that to the people of North Carolina and to the legislature. Also, in that same vein, we're working extremely hard and looking at potential scenarios if the Supreme Court case rejects the President's argument regarding the current writing of the bill, which is basically one or two lines, which is being debated. I think the debate started yesterday, I believe, and I've been reading some of those articles. And again, I specifically asked the President at the White House last week, I think it was last week, the storms have got my calendar off a little bit, but I specifically asked the President that is there a way that the White House and the President can work with governors to look at the scenarios that could occur if the Supreme Court rejects what is termed as Obamacare. The response I got from the President was threefold. One is, first, he doesn't think the Supreme Court will do that. Well, there's disagreement in legal circles on that. The second response he gave me is he presented his argument how much Obamacare was working. And the third piece of that argument was, well, if the Supreme Court does reject it, just move to a state exchange. Well, the concept of moving just to a state exchange is much more complex than just saying move to it the next day. There are implications regarding operations and management and money, and even if it works, there are states where it's been a total disaster. So that's why I asked specifically to the President. I make the same request to the Republican Senate and House members to let's work together to develop a potential alternative plan if the scenario occurs where the Supreme Court turns down the current bill that was passed by the House and Senate several years ago. And the dilemma is now people are reading it, including the Supreme Court. So that's what we're doing. We're on a parallel path in that regard. Big decisions ahead. Yes, sir.